Hello and welcome to the Godot community. My name is Sahira Dean. I am your virtual PLC lead for high school 2D art. Today I wanted to talk about some warm-up ideas that I've had and done with some students that may be successful after a break. So the first one I wanted to share was the circle game. You may have seen this online, but it's from a book by Ann Cook entitled Art Starters. So this was actually done with my Art 1 class, and it was done before a doodle assignment. So with the doodle art assignment, a lot of them actually struggled doodling. So you might find that hard to believe, but they were struggling with just not knowing what to do, not knowing what to draw, and just with the concept of doodling. So a lot of them, in their first year art class, my response was, you probably doodle all the time in your math classes, while you might be on the phone. But I kind of had to think about that. Like a lot of times, students are on their phone and their hands are occupied. So they might not doodle like we did when we were younger. So with this worksheet, it prompted them to kind of think and force them to think beyond, something circle. So besides like a skittle or a basketball or some type of, ball, what else could you turn this circle into, or even a sphere into? So as challenging as that thought was for a lot of them, they persevered and they made it through. And it really did help with their doodle art assignment, which I'll share in another webinar, with just them thinking and being forced to kind of finish something and think to the end of assignment and not give up, right? So the circle game is a good recommendation for getting students to start thinking and just getting their hands busy after possibly not being productive creatively anyway for over 2 weeks or more. Another good idea is name cards for portfolios or even sketchbooks. So for my class and my students, each student has their own portfolio. The upper level students have the orange portfolios. Some students actually bring in their own like leather portfolios. And then my Art 1 class students or Art 1 students make their portfolios out of large poster board. So the prompt for this was for them to creatively draw their name. They had to incorporate their birth date or possibly a symbol, that they want to connect with their birth date, zodiac sign, favorite place, favorite thing to do, and then something else that they wanted to share with me about themselves. So maybe if they've done a lot of travel, or, if they have a pet, or if they play an instrument, something like that. So while students are actually creating these, it's actually an awesome time for me as a teacher to walk around and connect with them. So, oh, my zodiac sign is this too, or I've been to New York as well, or, oh, I have a cat, too. So use this time while students are creating, to walk around and, build rapport and get to know them. But this is also a good time for you as a teacher to see who actually draws, because a lot of times you can tell, or they might actually have their own art materials that they carry around with them, so as opposed to using your Crayola markers that you've brought or shared with the class, they might have their own ink markers in their bag. And then, students that might struggle with coming up with ideas, or they're using a lot of imagery from the internet to draw, you just kind of get to know how they learn, or what kind of artists they are, or where they are in their art journey, right? So, and of course you can do this with all your levels of students, and it's kind of cool to kind of see if you're doing it with a student that you met their maybe first year in high school versus their second or third year in high school, what they actually create on their art on their name card. Neurographic artworks were really popular this year. I was seeing a lot of them done by different teachers online. So these are neurographic inspired works that I did with my high school 2D art class or AP class. So this was actually a break for them from their sustained investigation. So with this, we use this as kind of an experimental kind of quote unquote play day where they're kind of playing with different media, which I'll share, the specific parameters for this assignment in another webinar. But this was actually a great time for them to get to know other media, just to kind of, navigate into experimenting, really thinking or even really not thinking too much about the process. So for my students that tend to overthink and overwork compositions, this was the opportunity for them to kind of loosen up and kind of take a little bit of a stress break from their own work, and just randomly and freely create. So obviously this was done with my AP class. If I were to do this with my Art 1 class, it would look totally different. They may have some choices, but they may not use like washes, with no or limited teacher like mini lab experimentation or demos is what I'm trying to say. So, depending on the level that you do this with, the materials and the process might look a little bit different. But either way, just the opportunity for students to just kind of get their hands busy. This was a great opportunity for that. Another prompt that we did was actually taken from Debbie West. She did a 50 visual journal prompts article on the art of education. And she shared some of her students' examples. But this was actually done during the virtual period. A lot of my students were at home virtual. And so I figured it would be a great opportunity for them to draw a chair, right? If they're in class, you probably would see all the blue plastic chairs or maybe the brown wooden chairs, whatever chairs you have, or maybe even the stools. So being that they were at home, they were able to kind of draw some chairs from around their house. So I thought that was awesome. Another parameter for them was to incorporate mixed media. So using the materials that they had, which I thought was actually kind of cool as well. So you can see one person used Uno cards, another person used newspaper, another person used like magazines, and then another person used just a yellow, what's it called, piece of paper, right, the lawn paper. So they had choice, to kind of explore their own home with the materials that they had. But they did have some parameters. So they had to draw from observation, direct observation, a chair, and they had to incorporate mixed media, and then they had to incorporate text, I thought in some kind of way. One of them did, another person incorporated newspaper, and then I think the one on the left, it was in process. But, it also, if I were to do this with my students in class, it would be an awesome time for them just to kind of practice their direct observational skills, and then composition planning skills as well. Because again, depending on the level of class, so if this was like my Art 1 class, just getting them to draw from direct observation, the chair might look a little different than it would for my AP or for my Drawing and Painting 3 or 4 class. But nonetheless, the goal to get them thinking creatively and actually creating was definitely accomplished here. So if you could, after this webinar, please feel free to go to the Godot community and share some ideas that you've done with your students after a break, what's been successful, what maybe didn't go as planned, what you might change if you were to do it again, and what you have planned for, students coming back this break or after like the summer, which is even a longer break. Another question is, do you assign summer assignments for students over the summer break? So especially students that are going into your AP classes, what do some of those summer assignments look like? So I will see you in the next webinar. Thank you so much for being here and tuning in. Again, my name is Tahira Dean, and I'll see you next time.